how you can start up a sublimation side hustle this year for 2026. And we want to show you that it's easy and affordable to get started with sublimation. So before we hop into that, just some housekeeping things now that we've made it through the audio issues. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat and we'll try to answer those as we go along. We've got Caitlin here behind the scenes helping monitor those for us. And at the end of the webinar, we will be doing a giveaway, so stick around for that. So my name is Jackie. I work here in our marketing department at Johnson Plastics Plus, and I am joined today by the lovely Joyce in our advanced customer support team. And she is my sublimation guru specialist here. So she's here to really help answer any of those kind of more detailed technical questions. So I know when you registered, everybody answered the question of, are you a sublimation total newbie? Are you a sublimation pro? Or do you know a little bit about sublimation? And I think what we have is mostly people who are totally new or maybe just know a little bit about sublimation. So we're going to start from the very beginning and just explain what is sublimation. So a very high level explanation of sublimation is it's a scientific process that takes ink from a liquid state, turns it into a gas, and then when you apply heat and pressure, it goes back into a solid state, I think. Yeah, and then you get these beautiful full color impressions in your prints. So with sublimation, there are a couple requirements for that process to happen. So you do need a polyester coated blank for sublimation to happen. Yes. So I'll let Joyce talk a little bit about why you need a polyester coated blank and what that means for when you're starting your sublimation business.
So you're going to use polyester because the way the ink works in sublimation, it actually bonds to the pores of the polyester. They kind of open up, that's what the heat's doing, and the off gases right into those pores, and then it closes up. So it traps that color right up here against that, whatever your material, your blank is, forever. It's really nice, it's bright and vibrant. And so that is why you need the polyester. Now polyester can be applied to pretty much anything. You're gonna, of course, have polyester applied to things like clothing or soft goods like linen, but you can also have a polyester coating applied to something ceramic or a tumbler that's stainless steel, or even items like this, which are on a product called Hardboard, which has a polyester coating right on the top. One thing you wanna look for is because sublimation doesn't have white ink, your blank needs to be a light color. So if you were trying to print on something black, you're not going to see your colors at all because there's no white to make those colors pop. So you'll notice most sublimation blanks are bright white or like a light gray color. And that's what helps give that really vibrant color.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about sublimation, it needs to be a polyester sublimation specific blank. And we carry thousands. So many options for sublimation. And it's going to be a white or a light colored item. Now you can add all kinds of color on that, but you won't be able to print white on like a black cotton t-shirt, for example. So if you're thinking you want to have, that's all you want your business to be, sublimation might not be the best option for printing on cotton. There are other things that you can do to supplement sublimation, but that's a whole nother down the road conversation. But that's just some limitations to keep in mind with sublimation. But there are so many benefits to sublimation that outweigh those limitations that make it perfect for starting a personalization business. So for example, it's really, really great for photographic images. So we have an example here of this is what the blank starts. And then this is what you end up with when you sublimate. So you take a blank item that has that polyester coating, and then you press and you get this beautiful, full color, rich, super, super durable print. that you could resell and make some margins and money on that, whether it's your own photography, or maybe you are selling to realtors and you have photographs of new homes that you want to sell for closing gifts. There's so many options that you can create with sublimation. It's also super durable. So this image isn't gonna scratch or peel. It's fade and chip resistant. So I saw somebody say thanks for bringing closer to the camera. So we're gonna bring the bowl. So this is another example of something that you can do with sublimation.
So the first, this is the blank. This is how it comes. And then this is after the sublimation. I'm gonna go this way. So you can see the nice bright colors. You can see you got the fine detail of like the letters and the words. So, and this is something like, it's going to hold up. It's not going to chip off of here. Like this is in the ceramic. I mean, if you chip the ceramic and break it, it's going to be damaged just because that is what would happen. But it's not going to just scratch off if somebody's kids are playing with it or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're starting a business, you could start with one item. You could say, I'm going to start and I'm going to make a whole business about that sublimating mugs, for example. And you can put pretty much any image you want on there. If there is white in the image, it'll just kind of show through. But that's really the only limitation is you can't print white, and it has to be polyester coated material that's a white or light color. But beyond that, there's so many options. So today we did like a Valentine's Day themed kind of thing. So you could sublimate and create gifts for Valentine's Day. You could do holiday gifts. So there's so many things that are an option. Now you've noticed you can do both hard surface and textiles or soft surface items. So we wanted to show kind of the versatility that you get with sublimation, and we'll dive into how you get started in a second here. So this is our linen tote bag. I love this tote bag. It's really high quality. Every blank that we bring on, we test, we make sure it sublimates well. We make sure that we would feel comfortable selling it in our own business, obviously, so that when you sell it, you feel comfortable with that. It does work on metal, Ben. There are sublimation specific metals. There is Chromolux panels are an excellent option. I actually think I might have one in the room, so I'm going to go grab one, or Caitlin's going to go grab one for me behind the scenes. I know we have one somewhere.
We do.
There's one at Kylie's desk too, Caitlin, if we want to grab that. But yeah, so you can do metal, metal, linen. I'm trying to think of other materials.
Slate. We have some photo slates where that's, again, got that white polyester coating right on the top of the slate, and which looks phenomenal. This is a large, do you want to take it around?
Yeah, I'll take it
That's
around.
a large Chromolux panel. They come in a variety of sizes. One of the great things about sublimation is that you're very quickly going to get a really, really bright, vibrant print. It doesn't take very long. So when you're sublimating a product like a Chromolux panel, you're looking at 60 seconds and you have a really beautiful product that's easy to market because people just love the colors. They love how vibrant it is.
Yeah, so this is metal. This backing is metal. And then this is a hardboard material that's sublimated as well. And then our demo that we're going to do today is we're going to actually demo, and this is actually a puzzle. So I've got it up here. So how cool is it that you could offer people custom jigsaw puzzles with their own photos, and we'll show you how quick and easy it is to make them with sublimation. So that's going to be our demo. I'll give this back to Caitlin. Are there any other questions before we dive into how you make a sublimation print? Oh, I also forgot.
Got to cover the socks.
I have to cover the socks before we dive in.
These is really great. These were huge at Christmas. We made them for several people in the office. Everybody loves something really fun and customized to themselves. So making somebody a really custom product like their own socks with something silly or maybe something really, really adorable on it, like their kids' faces, It's definitely a really fun project.
Yeah.
That everybody kind of loves.
Yeah. And I think the key with sublimation, and if you decide to, start a small business and start kind of trying to make some money with sublimation, there's just so many options for what you can do. You're really limited by your imagination and your designs. So you can, if you're a designer, you can use design programs to create your own designs, or there are options available that you can use designs. But always be careful when you're looking at designs. If you're reselling, there are some things, but they'll always be but what are some programs that would be useful for sublimation?
Some really great programs would be something like Affinity. Affinity is available. There's, I believe, a free version of it. You can use products like Adobe Illustrator or Corel Draw. You can go on to programs even like Canva. You just want to be careful when you're exporting or bringing or creating that artwork. You really want to have the best quality artwork you can possibly start with. So that way then when it prints, you have a really beautiful print. If you're starting out and you're not comfortable with a design program, there are some really great tutorials online. But you can also go to program or sites like Etsy and get actually pre-done sublimation print files that you can then print right here on your F-170.
Yeah. So I think that's a great transition into our demo, and we're going to show you
Let's talk about our printer first.
The F-170. Yep. But before we print, Joyce made a good point. Let's talk about the printer first. So I will let Joyce talk a little bit about one of my favorite printers in the world, the Epson SureColor F-170. As you can see, it's a small desktop printer. It fits in your home office, so if you don't have a lot of space to dedicate to your small business, this is a great option.
Yes, and the great thing is this is a light printer. It's really easy to move around, so if you're interested in maybe going somewhere, you could pack this up and take it with you very easily. The other thing I really love about this printer, and let's talk about that for a second here, are these inks. So this is a Eco Tank printer, which means it has these little ink tanks right down here where you fill off of these bottles. So no cartridges, you don't have to worry about disposing of those cartridges or running out. You're gonna have these bottles, and they come with 140 milliliters of ink in them. So that's actually a lot. It's about 2.5 fills on this tank. So it's a pretty reasonable ink as well. I think it's about $44 a bottle. So you're gonna get a lot of prints off those bottles. And the great thing is they are keyed. And what I mean by that is you cannot put the wrong color in the wrong channel or the wrong tank, because the bottles will only fit the color it's meant to go in. So it makes it kind of foolproof, which is really great when you're starting out and you're a little nervous about it. They tried to make this machine really, really user-friendly. It works with 2 of the primary paper sizes, which is 8.5 by 11 or letter size, or 8.5 by 14 legal size. And you do need to use sublimation paper. So you can't just use copy paper. Sublimation paper actually has a coating of a little bit of clay, and that will help that ink release. So if you use copy paper, it's going to kind of stick. It won't come off, and you won't get very good prints.
Yeah.
So you got to use sublimation paper.
And I think so first of all, you're going to get much, much better sublimation prints with sublimation paper. But Joyce makes a good point that it's going to actually save you ink than using the wrong paper because of the way that the paper works. So it's not like we're trying to sell you more paper. It really does make your print work well. So.
Well, and this way, these papers won't stick to your blanks. Other papers might stick to your blank, and I'll actually ruin a blank because of that.
Yeah.
So the great thing is this has a little tray here underneath here. This is where you load your paper in at. And then the little tray comes out and you can put your prints, and your prints will come right out there. It's got a little screen here that is controlled. There's like a little control panel here, some arrows. Everything else is pretty self-contained. It's a really, really compact unit, and it is really compatible. So you can use it with a Mac. You could use it with a PC. You can print from any of the art design programs like Corel Draw, Affinity, or programs like Adobe Illustrator. Unfortunately, you can't print directly from Canva, but you could export that. And so that way then you have a lot of options. You're not locked into some custom software or anything. It's really, really compatible. If you want to, you can actually schedule an installation with us. We will go through a remote installation and make sure you get the right drivers. We'll help you do some test prints and help you get started. And that is completely free.
Yeah, that's a huge value and something that I think makes it worth, if this is something that you're ready to invest in, we recommend coming to us because we think we're great. But I also think it's a really great option because it's like having an extra arm of your small business because you have somebody there to help support you, help you get set up, help you troubleshoot that first print. And then if you're having some issues or you have questions, it's that free support that's available. Mm-hmm. Something else that I wanted to point out is our computer is over there and our printer is over here. So if you have like a small space and you need to kind of reconfigure things, it's possible because it is
it's wireless.
Wireless.
So you can either connect this directly to your computer, or like we're going to do, I'm going to walk over there and hit print, and it's going to send it. This has got no wires other than the power cable. So it's going to go ahead and print. And while it's doing that, I do want Jackie to talk about what a sublimation print looks like. There's a question in the chat of, does it have a maintenance cycle?
Oh, yes.
It does not have a maintenance cycle. It's not going to run one regularly. So I do recommend about once every 1 to 2 weeks running a nozzle check, which is available right here on the touchscreen. There's a little maintenance, and it'll print out and it'll show you how your printer is doing. This one, I nicknamed this one Charlie. He lives here in our showroom. He does not get printed on all the time because we have a lot of printers, and he does very, very well. So that's one thing. This particular machine doesn't need a lot of heavy maintenance. If you are not going to print for a while, you're definitely going to want to potentially at least run it a little bit. The other thing is these printers should be powered on all the time. So you're going to want to just leave it plugged in somewhere and then periodically at least run a print on it, probably about once every 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too, is a fairly low maintenance technology to invest in. Mm-hmm. I mean, keep it plugged in and turned on. And then as far as like replacement parts and costs to running sublimation, it's going to be the things like your paper, ink, but the ink is really inexpensive. This ink is really inexpensive and it looks beautiful. And then a maintenance tank.
It does have a waste tank. So all printers have some sort of waste tank. It's where your extra ink kind of goes. There's a little one right here in the back, and it's just a little panel. You pull it off, you take the old one out, put a new one in, and I think those run about $45 as well.
Yeah, but that's something that $45 is going to be, maybe, depending on how often you print, maybe...
I think I've done one last year.
I say once a year. It really just depends on how much.
It's not super often. Yeah. And that is, again, it is dependent on how often you're printing.
Exactly. Yeah. Plugged in and turned on.
Did you unplug it? I think Jackie unplugged our printer.
Yeah, we might need to replug this. Why did I do that?
Okay. What's our question? Leave the printer. Okay, so the question in the chat is, leave the printer plugged in and on, or just plugged in? You want to have it plugged in and powered on.
I don't know why I unplugged it. It's over there. I think it came unplugged, and I tripped over it. So don't do this. Don't unplug your printer.
You could unplug it if you're moving it or if you're transporting it somewhere. You don't need to leave it powered on all the time during transportation or anything, but you do want to leave it on. Just normally 99% of the time you're going to leave it powered on.
So that's really funny because I was like, why is this plug just here? And then I moved it and I'm like, why is this unplugged?
So it is going to take it a second after she plugs it back in, and it's going to run through a little bit of a power up
We're
cycle.
having a comedy of errors today. So this is a great example of sometimes when you start a business, silly things happen. You know, you try to go live and you can't hear people, and yeah, so we're going to plug this back in, turn it back on.
I will step around and make sure it powers on.
Now, while
it's going to light up here and start powering on, and what it's going to do is it's going to go through a little bit of an ink circulation.
Yeah. So while that's doing, you can hear it clicking a little bit. While that's turning back on, when you print, you might panic and think, "Oh my gosh, why is it so light? What's wrong? Like, shouldn't it be vibrant? So when you print, it's going to look like this. It's going to be kind of like dull, faded, but then when you press it is when you're going to get those really, really bright, vibrant colors. So don't panic when you do your first print and it looks faded, because that's what the sublimation print looks like.
So,
and we're back on and up. So
sublimation ink starts reacting with heat at about 365 degrees. But there's a big range because every single blank is going to work at a slightly different temperature. Something like ceramic, it's going to take longer to heat up than something like metal. Metal's going to be a lot quicker. So while your print looks really faded there, your print's going to be super vibrant when it goes on to the product. But let's talk about the tech tips while we're waiting here.
Yes. So with
Go see if it's ready to
our
print.
products, so with sublimation, there's kind of 3 steps. You print your transfer, you press your transfer, and well, I guess really 2, print and press, and then you have a product. So with that pressing, there's a couple different ways to apply heat and pressure. You can do that with a flat press. So with our puzzle, we're going to use a flat press. Mm-hmm. For a mug, you can use a mug press, which is this item here. So for that like kind of cylindrical shaped item, or you can use an oven and a shrink sleeve for something that's maybe you can do mugs in the mug press or the oven, or if there's something kind of funky shaped, this isn't going to fit in a mug press, but you can fit it in an oven. So there's kind of 3 different ways to apply that heat and pressure. And there's different times, temperature, and pressure settings that you want to use for different items. And now you might be thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to know? How am I going to keep track of what time, what temperature, what pressure to press each item at? Well, guess what? You don't have to. So on our website, we have something called Tech Tips, and I have one under here somewhere. So on our website, under each item, each blank has something called Tech Tips. And what that has is the temperature that you need to set your press at, the time you should press your item for, and for what pressure. So for our sublimation puzzle that we're going to print today, we just printed out the Tech Tips, and it tells us exactly the time and temperature that will work well with that specific blank. So we've got our press set to 380 for about a minute. Now there might be some troubleshooting involved with those depending on your specific press, and some things just need a little tweaking here and there, but it gives you a really good place to jump off from, and you don't have to waste a bunch of material and try things and be like, I don't know, I have no idea. But typically it's around 400 degrees for 40 to 60 seconds, but it really just depends on the blank.
Yeah, and in the end of the Tech Tips, there's always like some troubleshooting of like, if your print comes out too light, maybe you need to do this. If your print colors are wrong, so for example, black is a common color that people have issues with getting a good consistent color in. Sometimes it'll come out green. Typically when it's green, it means it needs to go a little bit longer or be a little bit higher in temperature. If it comes out brown, it's way too hot. It's burnt. So kind of giving you guys the starting spots so that way then when you jump off into this, you're jumping off with confidence.
Yes, and I will tell on myself a little bit because I am always learning about sublimation, and typically when something comes out wrong, I kind of am like, oh, it's not the blank, it's just the fact that maybe the pressure was way too high, or my time was way too long or way too short. But typically with these Tech Tips, they come out great. But sometimes you just have to make little tweaks and adjustments. So it looks like our print has printed. So you could see it doesn't take very long to print.
Yep. The other thing I want to talk about is the print is mirrored. So that's a big thing, is if you'll notice the text is backwards. And so you want to make sure that when your print comes out, it looks correctly. This printer is set up to automatically mirror your artwork. So you don't need to mirror it in a design program or anything. However, the caveat is if you are pressing this image onto something that is glass or something that is a cast acrylic where you're going to be looking through that material and you're pressing kind of on the back of it, you would actually not want it to be mirrored. So that is information you would again find right here in the tech tips. We will talk about whether it should be mirrored or not mirrored. Sometimes there's some additional things you might need. We're always going to recommend things like heat tape. Using heat tape to secure your print to your blank. But sometimes we'll add additional things like a pressing pillow to help with a shirt or maybe a bag. So there can be some additional little informational kind of bits that we put in there. And sometimes it's just things that we found worked really, really well.
Yeah.
And since I write some of those, I get to experience all of the pitfalls kind of firsthand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you want to take them through setting up a blank for the first time?
Yeah. So I think we can just kind of take you from print to press. So we've printed our transfer, which is what we call the print, just a transfer. So we've got our print. And then once you have your print, you're going to adhere it to your blank. So I've got my sublimation puzzle blank. So you can see the puzzle. And now this is, it's not just like a regular puzzle. It's not going to work if you just get a regular puzzle. I don't know where you would even find a blank puzzle, but if you did, you need to make sure that it's got this polyester coating. Now this is cardboard. It does come with like a little cardboard backing, so we took that off. And now you're going to take your transfer and apply the transfer face down. So what I'm going to do is lay my paper here and then just flip it over. Oh, here, let me come this way so you can actually see me. Let me come, and then I'm going to lay it down and just kind of center it. Now we did do a bleed on here so that the image is a little bit bigger than the blank. So I've got it kind of centered, ready to go. And then I'm going to take my heat tape so it doesn't shift around and move when I put it under the heat press. And you are going to want a specific kind of heat tape so that it doesn't melt. And this heat tape actually does come in the kit that we're going to talk about at the end of the
It looks like this.
press.
It's kind of a brown yellow color. It's a very, very, very thin tape. So it allows the heat to transfer right through that so you don't get any marks on your blanks.
Yes, exactly. So now that we've got my transfer taped here, so the image is directly on the blank, I'm going to take it over to my heat press where I'm going to apply heat and pressure.
So one of the things she's going to use here is a piece of blowout paper. So blowout paper is just non-coated paper. And sometimes you'll hear it called craft paper or butcher paper, but you want to make sure there's just no coatings on it, no waxes or anything like that. And what this does is protect this upper and lower platen of this heat press from any ink that could potentially be escaping and would maybe like leave a mark on here that then would transfer to the next blank. So you really want to use one sheet of blowout paper and one transfer for each blank.
Yeah, and we'll press it and we'll show you what that looks like so you can see kind of where the ink comes from. So we've got our blowout paper. Now we've just folded this one in half because it's a bigger sheet, but sometimes you'll put one sheet down and then one on top. So you protect the bottom platen and the top platen. The platens are just these like square things. If you're like, what is that word?
And the top one is where the heat's coming from.
So
you
this
do
is
want to
hot.
be careful not to burn your hand. And this particular press has a cool thing where the bottom of this actually slides out.
Yeah.
So that way then you're not putting your hand near the heated element.
Which is pretty cool.
Which is really nice, especially as you're starting, because things get hot and we want to protect our hands.
Yeah. So now we've got our blowout paper. I'm going to take my blank and I want the image facing up. Now this is something that I've done many times before, and I press it and I'm like, well, wait a minute, nothing happened. But it's because the heat wasn't getting to the image. So I have my image facing up. I'm going to put it in, and I'm going to try and put it kind of in the middle of my press so that I get even temperature and pressure. So that transfer happens, everything is even and there's no like light spots or something like that. So I've got my time and temperature set. Make sure that's in. I'm just gonna push down and my timer will go ahead and start.
So this press is great. It's going to lock down here really nicely. And then when it gets really close to the end of the countdown, it's actually going to beep at you to kind of give you a heads up. And one thing you're going to want to have on hand is a heat glove. So depending on the type of blank you're working with, some of them are going to get very hot and they're going to hold their heat. So you'll want to have a workspace that you can put the blank in to cool down. So for example, ceramic, that stays very hot for well over 5 minutes. So you're going to want to make sure that it's not where somebody like little could grab it. Aluminum, metal, same thing. It's going to stay hot for a while. Some blanks, like the socks, they're going to cool down pretty quickly just because they kind of lose their heat easily. But you just want to have a good workspace where you're not going to accidentally be brushing against something hot. But these heat gloves are nice and thick, and so they're going to protect Jackie's hands when she goes to take this out.
Yeah. Cardboard actually is not a great heat conductor.
It's not.
So this one, but it is still hot. So the mugs stay hot for a long time because, you know, when you put your coffee in it, it stays hot for a long time. So there's about 3 seconds left, so it's beeping at me. So I'm gonna pull it out here. And I'm pulling this off. And now we've got a beautiful print. So just in that minute or so, we took this image. You can see now that where the transfer ink came off a little bit. And I'll show you what the blowout paper looks like. Ooh, that is a little hot, as Joyce just said. So you can see here on the paper, there's a little bit of ink residue. And that's why you want to put the blowout paper there so it doesn't get on your platen, or the next time you press something, if it's not green, you don't want it to be green.
Yep.
So that's a demo of how quick and easy it is to create a custom puzzle with sublimation. Before we talk about this kit and how you can get started yourself, are there any questions in the chat about the sublimation process? Can you use a printout more than once? No.
So the transfers are, the question was, can you use a printout more than once? So the transfers are only good one time. That ink off gases, and even though there's kind of a faded image still there, there's not enough ink to get a successful second transfer.
Oh, that's a really good question, David. So, Joyce, the question is, how soon can the transfer paper be pulled off the surface of the product getting sublimated? Does it depend on the material?
That's actually great.
That's a really good question.
So most of the time, it's going to be immediate. You're going to immediately be able to peel that off and remove it. The only thing that I would kind of say is mugs. So mugs, sometimes there's different methods of pressing mugs if you're pulling them out of the oven. And that one you might be taking a little bit more time, particularly if you're using a shrink wrap, just because if you're doing several, it's going to cool down as you go. But normally, you can just go ahead and pull that transfer right off as soon as you pull it out. If, however, you're feeling uncomfortable with the heat, it's okay for it to sit there for a minute.
Yeah.
So this was sublimated at 380 for, I believe, 75 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the total time for that puzzle. And you could range, I believe the tech tip said, from 60 seconds to 85. So we try and give a range of time because it is going to depend a little bit on your press.
Yeah, and you can do more than one item at a time in your press as well. So for example, this was about the size of our platen, so we only had one item in there. But let's say you are selling, we have sublimatable keychains that are a smaller item, and you can do multiple at a time. So there are ways to save time that way as well.
Absolutely.
So to get started with sublimation, as we mentioned, you need a printer, you need paper, you need ink, and you need a way to add heat and pressure to your blank. We actually carry a whole bunch of different bundles or kits for sublimation. And in the complete bundle, you get everything on the table here, minus the blanks, for I think it's like $1,275. You get the printer, a full set of inks, you get a mug press, this flat press, and a convection oven. So, and is this one's convertible, I believe.
Yes, so this particular press that Craft Express offers actually has attachments that are available for it as well, where there's a hat attachment, there's several of different ones.
Can two-sided sublimation be done at the same time? So that's a really good question too. So our socks are a great example. We can talk a little bit about how we did the socks.
So this is obviously two-sided, so is the bag, which I threw down there, and it's going to stay down there. So these are both, you can do both sides. However, you do need to do it one side at a time. So what you would do is, for example, with this bag, is you would sublimate one side first, and then I would let it cool slightly. You don't want to put a sublimation transfer on something that is super hot. It will actually start sublimating before you're ready. So I would let that cool down about 2 minutes, minute and a half, 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be super long, but it does need to not be at a sublimation temperature anymore. And that gives you time to get everything set up. You would flip that over, go ahead and sublimate the other side. So for these socks, we went ahead and sublimated the first side, set them off to the side, did the next sock, flipped it over, and then did the other side. So it doesn't take super long to do two-sided items, as long as they're cooling down between those sides.
Great question. Any other questions about the sublimation process or things that you can sublimate on? Okay.
All right.
So as I mentioned, I am a huge fan of, if you think that you're ready to dive into sublimation, and especially you want to have a diverse range of things that you can sublimate, the complete bundle is an awesome, awesome value. You get the printer, you get a roll of heat tape, you get a full pack of 8.5 by 11 paper, a full pack of 8.5 by 14 paper. You get the full set of inks. I can't remember if I said that or not. So there's CMYK, so cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, and there's no white ink because it's sublimation. You also get the heat press, the flat heat press, so you can do things like puzzles, photo panels, keychains, flat items. Then you also get a mug press that you can do mugs in, and you get a convection oven that you can do mugs and other different types of items. Yes, Ben, we do have what is the financing available for our equipment on jpplus.com. If you go to there's a little tab up at the right hand corner for financing. If it's something that you want to look into, we offer a couple different options for that. And there was a question about, does a second sublimation change the color of the first? That's a really good question.
It's a great question, and no, it does not. So once this ink has locked in, it doesn't come out. So that's the other thing, is you can't salvage a blank. So if something gets messed up, it's going to be messed up forever. So, you know, it's okay. I have cabinets full of things that are just not quite right.
Yeah, you know,
We love our imperfections.
I do have to admit, when I was making this bag, it had nothing to do with the printer or the ink or the blank. I just did it upside down, and sometimes things like that happen.
Yep.
You know, so there are things that there are learning curves, but to get started, it seems overwhelming and daunting, but it's such a cool technology, and there's so many ways that you can apply this and make money. So I'm thinking, if you have a photography business, or you want to sell to photographers, if you want to make custom gifts and you want to niche down and sell customized blanks to people who are really into music or pets or car shows. There's just so many ways that you can take this technology and create a business. And I think this kit is just a really awesome way to get started. And as you can see, it doesn't take a lot of space. We have everything set up here on a small table, and you could even like tuck these things away if you're not using them all the time. If you want to, put the oven in another room when you're not using it, and pull it out when you are. Those are definitely things that you can do.
One thing I do want to mention, and this is just a safety thing, is
I know exactly.
this is a sublimation only oven.
Yes, don't use it for pizza rolls too.
I know it looks like a toaster oven. Sublimation, you do not want to cross-contaminate that with food. So that's just the only thing. When you're making it in this oven, it's a sublimation only oven. No Tostinos, no pizza bites.
Yeah, that's a yes.
And there are a couple little things that you might want to have on hand. There is a question. What is the best wood to sublimate on? So you would want to have a wood that is coated with polyester. And we do offer, it's a wood substrate that is actually coated with Chromolux, and it looks amazing sublimated on.
To see if we have one around here.
There is some, it's on the stack to the left. There's about 3 panels up there. We have a lot of extra stuff off to the side, and it gives really nice vibrant colors. If it was just a regular piece of like plywood or MDF, your color is not going to adhere to that. You need to have that sublimation coating.
Yeah.
So Jackie's going to show you what this looks like. This is the Chromolux coated wood.
So this is a really great example of, so this is a laserable wood. So this is a great example of how you can take sublimation, like once you get started with sublimation, you can grow with sublimation exponentially. So this is a sublimation coated wood. So it's got that sublimation coating on it. And then we also carry pre-cut blanks and blanks that are, home decor, cutting boards and things that are sublimation ready as well that are wood.
And then real quick, there are just a couple things you're going to want to have on hand that are not included in the bundle. Something like a pair of scissors to cut your transfers down so they're closer to the size of your blank. If you're working with fabric, you're going to want to have a lint roller. There will just be loose fabrics and loose fibers. You're going to want to go ahead and just make sure that you're not pushing any of those into the material because they'll stay there forever. So we do want to lint roll anything that's fabric. I like having a tape measure. I like knowing exactly the size of my product. I can measure this and just make sure my transfer is the right size. So having a tape measure on hand. And then personally, this is my favorite tape device. You're going to want to have something to put your roll of tape on, something that makes it easy for you to grab your little pieces of tape and tape up your transfers, and a heat glove.
Yes.
Some sort of heat resistant glove. There's definitely multiple different styles on the market, so you're going to want to get something that fits your hand, but you do want to have a heat resistant set of gloves. So that's everything I can think of that's not in the kit.
Yeah, I mean, and then obviously blanks.
Yeah, and it sounds like, Debbie, you need to experiment more with blanks. Can you tell me what your favorite blank is?
We do have a sublimation starter kit.
Oh, yeah.
But that I highly recommend. It is just a kind of variety of different types of blanks that you can test out. Caitlin, if you want to throw that in the chat, the sublimation starter kit, and that's a great place to start. And then with the Epson, and when you purchase with us, you get all of this awesome stuff. And then you also get JPP bucks with your purchase, so that it's basically like a credit and you can try some things.
Yeah.
So that's why I just think this is a really awesome way to begin a sublimation business. Oh, a press that will do mugs and tumblers. That is a great question. So there are mugs that have, there's different sizes of attachments.
There are.
So this one is, I believe, set up for
small mugs.
For small mugs.
Set up for like 11 ounce, pretty much a small coffee cup. Anything larger than that, with this particular setup, you're going to move to your oven. So there's also options for a larger version of this press that does like the bigger tumblers, like the 20 and 30 ounce tumblers. Now, for example, if you want to do a 40 ounce tumbler, and we do offer a sublimation coated 40 ounce tumbler, you're going to use the oven to do that. Jackie's going to go find it. So you would use shrink wraps and a heat gun to actually tighten up around that transfer that you put on this. And one thing I want to draw attention to is you can't sublimate on a curve. So you can sublimate on a straight side, So you're going to sublimate up to about here, and then you're going to start sublimating again down here. So you want to set your designs up accordingly. And we've talked about the tech tips that are available on the website, but we also have templates. So if you're interested in a blank and you're looking at the tech tips, just above most of those, you're going to find a template. And that's going to give you the exact dimensions of the areas you can actually sublimate on.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would need to get shrink sleeves for these, which would be recommended in our tech tips.
Yeah.
And then you can actually, the handle comes off of this. You can take it off with a screwdriver. And then you would take off the lid. We don't want to put plastic in there. And
Have a melty mess.
You would go ahead and sublimate this in this tumbler, and you would use this oven to do that. So I've actually gone all the way up to a 52-ounce item in this oven. So it's pretty good size. I think you can do 2 of these at a time.
Yeah. And something else that is nice to have is I'll get you a heat gun for your shrink sleeves if you're using shrink sleeves, or there are like silicone wraps that you can reuse as well. I like the shrink sleeves personally, but it just depends on the item and what you like.
What you're comfortable with.
Yeah. So there's just so many things that you can create. I know I have a feeling that these creative people on the call, their wheels are turning. And Debbie and Kate, I love the tech tips
guys.
too.
Yeah.
They're the best. So that I don't have to go track Joyce down and say, hey, how do you do this? I can just go to the website and pull it down, and it gives me the time, temperature, and pressure. So
and if you guys find a product that doesn't have a tech tip or a template with it, just reach out to us. We're happy to make them.
yeah, let us know. Before we dive into our giveaway, are there any other questions about sublimation, about what comes in the kit, about what you need to get started, what sublimation can and can't do? I'll keep an eye out on the chat for a second. I know we've had some people hang in with us for a long time, so I'm super happy, and thank you again for hanging with us during our little tech malfunction. I know that's always frustrating, but such is the way of life. Oh, that's a great idea, Debbie, keeping a notebook. Love that. I'm trying to think of any other questions that I had when I was learning sublimation. So you can print on both sides of a blank if it's sublimation on both sides. You can only use the transfer once.
Yep.
So once you press it, you can't use that transfer again. You need a printer, special sublimation inks, sublimation paper, and a way to apply heat and pressure. If you purchase with Johnson Plastics Plus, you do receive a credit through our JPP bucks for you can buy some extra blanks. And then you have the option to do a free install with our advanced support team.
Yep.
And we're going to choose one lucky winner today who's going to receive one of each of the blanks that we showed today. So I will have Caitlin pull a winner, and we will email that out. But we'll announce it here too, because we don't want to let the suspension go too long.
And yes, David, we do offer that. We also have a channel over on YouTube that has videos. For example, that actually is all about doing shrink sleeves and using a convection oven. So
yeah, I think our winner is,
drum roll, please,
Marianne. So Marianne, we will get you the information and get those blanks sent out to you so you can test out some different mugs, photo panels, and pet bowls, candy bowls, whatever you want them to be. That's the cool thing about sublimation too, is this is a pet bowl, but we've made it a candy dish. You could make it a planter. You could make it whatever you want. So Debbie has a question about traveling.
Yes, Debbie, you can certainly travel with this. You're going to want to just make sure that you're keeping it upright and not letting it like get tipped over to its side or anything like that, because that ink is just in those tanks. So yeah, you can go ahead and take it with you. I actually last year saw several of them making the circuit at some of the craft fairs. So definitely you can travel with it. You will need to probably directly connect it to whatever computer you're taking, mostly because Wi-Fi in those kind of remote locations is never very good. So have it already set up and test it at home before you take it out.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's a great option. Like with sublimation, you can take and do custom things right on the spot, which is super cool. And people like to pay for custom. Like I'm definitely going to pay more for something that's custom to me than that everybody else has, because who doesn't want to be special?
Yeah.
So I think that's everything we have to cover. I know there was a lot of information. We hope that you're inspired to start your sublimation business this year, and we highly recommend either the complete bundle, or there's a couple other bundles that are available that can get you started with sublimation. Do you have anything else to add, Joyce?
I don't.
So, well, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you around on our next webinar.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.